Are we live, John?
Are we live? I think so. Looks
We're
like it.
both on location.
We are. Yeah.
John can keep his fancy logos. I have to wear mine today. I got to represent a little bit differently.
Well, this isn't true though, because we both know that you could also have your logos. You're just not setting it up. There's a difference.
Well, good morning, everybody, for another Wake Up and Deliver, episode 17. John and I are in location, two different spots, but very close to one another. Just busy days, Mondays, both in Toronto, both attending the same conference. So you're going to see us walking around, hopefully today, not today, tomorrow, Wednesday,
Tomorrow,
Thursday. But let's start. We can get into that in a second. Let's start off with our regular brain food. I can't put it on the fancy screen. It's a bit far. My setup is a little bit different. But we're going to read it. We're going to do it, like I said, old school. I think this one's going to be quick. I think this one's going to be good. The quicker you want something, the easier it is to manipulate you.
Oof. What do you take from that? How do you see that one?
Let me say it again. The quicker you want something, the easier it is to manipulate you. I think it's I like that quote. When I saw that, I was like,
to manipulate you mean like the person who wants it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty true. I think it's, manipulate's always a hard word that people use, but I think that anytime someone wants anything, they probably do their own like sort of heavy lifting to convince themselves it's the right thing to do or whatever. You know what I mean?
At home with my kids, we always have the 24-hour, meaning if you want something, you gotta wait 24 hours before you buy it because it's in the moment. As soon as you think about it, you don't want it anymore.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's like a good practice and stuff like that. I think a lot of retailers, especially these days, get away on like that FOMO and hoping people buy, which will be interesting to see, with all, the tension in the market, price changes, like availability potentially, like how much that might change or maybe get worse. I guess we're going to find out.
Yeah, and good morning, Emmert. Thanks for joining us. I know you messaged me, said you missed us last week, and you're back on it this week, and we're happy for you to join us. So good morning.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I totally noticed. I should have messaged him and been like, "Hey, what's going on?"
Me too. We noticed.
We noticed.
We know everybody.
Yeah. check the logs.
We're on, like I said, we're on location in Toronto this week. We're both attending SIAL, which is a food CPG show, one of the bigger ones in North America. It's a fantastic show. We're going to be walking around, and Monarch Connect has a booth there. John's going to come by and say hello from the booth and give us a proper shout out this time for it.
Well, okay, so first off, Matt normally is kind of like a private guy, and he doesn't like making a big deal. So like obviously I knew that they had a booth and stuff like that, and that they're doing some really great things to support the conference. And specifically in the video that I made last week, I clearly said, and going to support people at the conference. So it was a shout out, but without, assuming that Matt had his personal preference. And then he messages me being like, "Oh, thanks for not calling us out." And I'm like, "Don't worry, I'll do some other videos on the floor live. Just wait to see what I'm wearing tomorrow when I'm at the booth, and then we'll see. We'll see what's going on."
Maybe John will come by and do some videos. We'll have it next week of us at the booth having a good time and seeing what SIAL is all about. But some cool things. Hopefully, if anybody who's watching, we know whomever it is that comes sees us and says hello, or whoever does catch the show comes says hello in person, because we don't get these opportunities too often. It's always a good time. But
yeah, it'd be fun.
Let's crack into it.
Yeah.
How about we start off with some price matching that we were talking about before?
Yeah, for sure. So Matt's referring to my video that's still trying to get uploaded right now from my phone because I had to do it on location or as I was moving. I was trying to highlight the fact that these days, here's a simple thing when it comes to like retail performance, customer experience, and customer connectedness that like shouldn't even be a problem these days, or at least it shouldn't be a problem for like the big retailers. And I was telling Matt how I was like basically shocked yesterday when I went to Walmart and just tried to pick up a stupid thing, like nothing that I needed urgently. Like it was already a stretch for me to like want to buy it because I already have this thing. It was more like I forgot forgot it at home, and I was like, do I really need another one? I don't know. So anyways, I go to pick it up. There's literally a $10 difference between the Walmart price and the Amazon price, and I was like, okay, no big deal. Like, it's sold by Amazon, it's clearly the same product. Like, let's get a price match, and then no big deal. So I go to the cash, and I swear to God, the Walmart employee looked at me like I had been dropped on my head when she was like, well, we can't price match Amazon. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, no, we don't price match. So this Walmart policy of not price matching Amazon is in Canada. It's also in the US. They just don't do it. They'll price match their own marketplace and whatever, which is funny because it could have all kinds of third-party sellers, but they won't actually price match competitors, Amazon, Target, whatever, which I thought was wild because at one point price matching was like all the rage. And what I also think is really interesting is that Walmart is investing billions of dollars to build out capabilities that are very similar to Walmart, to build out fulfillment services, to build out their marketplace, but won't do something as simple as price matching when you also have a customer already in the store. And now some people in the past used to
So
be
here's
like,
the flip.
okay,
Does Amazon price Walmart?
Amazon price matches everybody. If like that's what, well, Amazon at any given time is constantly checking their prices against all of their competitors and just adjust the price automatically on the listing.
You can't ask them to price match like you do at Walmart. So that's what they say. They write in their little comment, be like, hey, so we don't do offer price matching. We're constantly looking for the lowest price, and we know this is the lowest price.
Who,
So they
Amazon?
don't price match either. Yeah.
No, you still can. If for whatever reason they haven't caught it, you can still submit a request to say that you've price matched something after you bought it and work through their customer service. But these days, they're usually like if you're thinking about mainstream product and you're thinking like compared to major retailer, whether it's like someone like Target or Walmart or Best Buy or whatever, they've already price matched it. Like they don't even want to take your call, so to speak, because they've already done it. And they do it based on region, based on like whatever. Yeah. So they're doing it like crazy. Now, when you and I used to work in retail, there was legitimately like a real like gap there, right? Like, hey, physical stores, we have the inventory in there, like you can get it today. He said Patrick saying he never knew about price matching. You're saying for Amazon. Do you mean like Amazon doing it or like other people doing it? So we'll wait till he answers. But when you and I used to work in retail, it would make sense. Like e-com was very slow. Like things would take forever to get there. And they made a big deal about the fact that like, hey, you're going to get it in like 3, 5, 7 days versus you can get it today. We have costs bringing it in here. But the reality is that that nonsense fairy tale is gone. Like when Amazon is making promises about the fact that they can have it, like depending on certain geographies, especially in the US, you can have it within an hour, you can have it within 3 hours, and you have it next day. That inventory is all in the system. And when it's purchased by Amazon, that's why you see this whole like 1P versus 3P kind of model that they have going on. But like there's certain brands out there that essentially were only ever selling to Amazon. Amazon was buying everything, essentially inventorying it the same as every other retailer and just pushing it out the door. And like the idea that Amazon gets it to me 3 hours later or the next day versus me being in your store, and that's a differentiator that you think isn't worth like price matching, that's finished. Because realistically, I didn't need it that much. And do you know what they've just accomplished there now? The next time I'm in that exact same situation and I don't really need it, I'm not even going to waste time thinking about going to the store. I'm just going to get it. I'm just going to order it ahead of time just because there's no point. Like imagine that Amazon will pick, pack, ship, push a delivery to my door, right to my door. And they'll be cheaper than someone where I have to still take my time, go to the store. They may or may not have it, and then kind of purchase it. And like I'm gonna pay more for that experience.
Go into the crowd of the throng of people and push through all that kind of stuff, and you don't really necessarily want to. And like we talked about before, like if you can get it within an hour, you can get it into your hotel room if you need something. You don't have to leave your hotel if you're in an unknown city, in an unknown area. You just get it delivered, and you have that convenience. And as soon as we get more of that quick delivery, or even thinking ahead, if I'm traveling, I'm gonna be at the hotel. I don't want to put it in my bag. I'd rather just grab it when I'm there, save on some luggage on the way out. You have that ability. Amazon does have that power. I didn't know about the price matching thing on Amazon. I'm still skeptical about that. I gotta check that out after.
Oh
I gotta
yeah,
fact check you, John.
I've
I
done
gotta
it
check
before.
this out.
I've done it
I
before.
used to, but recently I know they've changed. I thought they changed it recently. That's the only reason I say that, because I know it used to be a thing a couple years ago.
Mm.
Anyways,
If they've gotten rid of it, as a request, it's probably because they've already decided like all of the people they'll price match and they just do it automatically. But I do recall it was there. But I mean, I've always found these days that, and it's funny sometimes when you go on Amazon, because if you're looking for a specific product, you can, like, let's just say you're looking for a piece of tech, okay, and there's only so many retailers that sell tech. You can usually start to see very quickly, like, if they've price matched anybody, right? And the funny thing is too, and this is, maybe I'll give some gold to like the readers out there, or the listeners. I was going to say readers, but listeners when we're doing our podcast. You can use sites like Camel. There's like a Canadian version, there's a US version, and this thing actually scrapes like the products on Amazon all the time and is showing you their price history. So not only can you see if it's on price match, but you can actually understand like the price history over the last X amount of time. And then, so you can actually really understand if it's a deal or not. And then if you are looking at it with other retailers, if it's some off price, like yesterday, this thing was like on Amazon was like 50-35, which no one would price that way. Like, that's some kind of weird price match from someone. That's what they were doing. So anyways, I was blown away, because for all of the battling that Amazon and Walmart are doing, especially for that hybrid customer that's essentially your transactional, your experiential, and then your subscription-based customer, I was shocked that Walmart would give up that opportunity, because they have, Walmart is second to none when it comes to buying power for any product that they stock. So it's like, let's not pretend that Amazon kind of got a better deal on it than they did.
Advantage Amazon has is it's more global, right? So their inventory, they can spread it across for a more global audience and bring it across the border. And they have like a little bit of a unique ability, and they really invested on the logistics part of it when they're further ahead than Walmart, because Walmart's more set up to direct to store versus Amazon's direct to consumer, right? And that's the kind of the advantage that they've niched out, and it's that's why they're the largest company in the world.
Well,
They have
for
that
sure,
ability, right?
but that's like where. But see, if I'm Walmart as an example, right, and I'm talking strategy, and I don't like Walmart Canada versus Walmart US, even though it's like Walmart US is far more forward thinking, and that they usually have better strategy. But the point being is this: is that if I really want to have my biggest advantage versus Amazon, it is my stores, right? And then when you pair this with the marketplace and potentially the ability to start like showcasing products through your different stores based on regionality, and getting more foot traffic in there, getting people another way to experience products that might typically be marketplacey or just D2C, I am not going to do anything at any part of my strategic sort of planning to make it less interesting for someone to come into the store, to give them a reason to not come into the store. Because honestly, and I said this on, I don't know where, like if we were talking here no, I was on some other retail kind of like summit last week, and I said to people that this experiential versus transactional shopping has shifted a lot. Online used to be very much just the experiential, finding cool things, finding really unique products or whatever. But ever since COVID, it's become really dominated by transactional stuff, because people got tuned into buying toilet paper and cereal and like nonsense online that they typically only thought was available in stores. So it's like, why would I ever want to go to the store where they may not have my size, they may not have my color, they may not have my variant of whatever, like when I know online, when I see it, because of the way all the inventory system works, if I can hit buy, I usually always get it. So it's like, now that transactional shopping is so much more accessible online, like if I'm a Walmart or Target's a good example because they need a lot more foot traffic in their stores. But I mean, you don't want to give any of your consumers ever a reason to feel like they wasted their time by coming into your store.
That's one thing Canadian experience. Canadian Tire does. They have every store is a bit more unique geographically. They have like very standard, obviously, stuff that they have
Mm-hmm.
across all the stores, but every store has its own little flavor because it's more of like a franchisee model. And then they have unique products that they have based on what the consumers want in their area. And it might be different from Northern Ontario, might be different from Western Canada, and it's very much a regional experience that you have when you walk into a Canadian Tire. And not only that, they make the experience kind of neat where if you're looking for something, the aisles light up as you're looking for that product as you enter it, right? So when you can go and physically touch it, look at it if you want it, and they've made that experience a lot better. There's a lot of cool things that Canadian stores do that I don't think get enough light, like Canadian Tire, because Canadian Tire does get a bad rap for a lot of different
Mm-hmm.
things, but they do a lot of great things other ways, right? and they are the competitor of sorts of Walmart, and they do have a strong presence across Canada, and they have that footprint. Um, but they just don't have enough SKUs to really compete with Walmart, and they don't have enough SKUs to really compete with Amazon. But they have their different brands that are
Mhm.
really good in there as well, like Sport Check and whatnot. But they really do need to help with that transactional direct to customer experience really take off, because Sport Check, it's always packed. Every time I go to the mall, that's one of the main stores. It's always packed. And Mark's warehouse, is that what it's called? Which is another
Mhm.
Canadian Tire brand. Same thing. You always have that specific niche brand going. If they could really turn on their e-commerce, I think that'd be a great brand, and I'd love to see it expand beyond the Canadian borders and have that Canadian-esque type going into the US.
So I used to work with a distributor, independent distributor and stuff like that, and he finally decided to hang that up, and he got into he just wanted to do something different, and he ended up actually going to work for Canadian Tire and being like an assistant GM of the building, right? So these are franchise models and stuff like that, like a Canadian Tire for the most part, everything that they do. But he said that almost 80% of their sales have some type of discount attached to it. And I thought that that was just wild, right? Especially now, it made sense a number of years later when you started seeing like, some of the challenges they got into. And when you sell on discount, it's a really, really hard thing to get out of because you've got like year over year sales activity, you've got the ease of selling on price point stuff. So very difficult to get out of. But I agree with you that I think that they've been able to combat some of that and not necessarily discount as heavily to drive sales because they have been more focused on like experience and functionality and kind of being in the store and making it easy. I actually think they have one of the best implementations of any retailer when you want to use their website to then find inventory in store for how many like essentially facings they have in that store. They are very, very good at really directing a consumer to where that product is.
Considering that every store is a little bit different, considering it's
Mhm.
not like the exact same layout every single time, right? And I think that experience would make it a lot better. I would like to see them expand on more SKUs and have a little bit more of everything Canadian type S to it, and then bring in more of their brands into each other's stores. Uh, so going to Sports Check and then going to Mark's warehouse, being able to have that inventory into one store, I think would draw a lot of foot traffic. Sure. And
The
even they have
sport
Party City as well. Oh, the lights went out. A
they
great
did,
idea.
yeah. They're
God,
you can tell
guys,
I'm the
everybody,
only
just John having an idea.
no, you can tell I'm the only one in like the back corner of like the office, and it's got sensors. So like, hey, I'm still here.
I'm still alive.
All right, so that's cool. So, anyways, simple stuff like that. When you're working for it, let's talk about a little bit since we got SIAL coming up. Let's talk about a little bit maybe CPG, B2B type of activity and stuff like that. Like, what are maybe some of the I don't know. What do you think are some of the bigger either concerns or challenges and stuff like that that people are seeing? So, for anyone that doesn't know, SIAL is a big food, CPG show and stuff like that, like showcasing new products and things like that. And pretty much everyone there probably wants to get their products on shelves that you can buy. So what are you thinking are some of the biggest challenges in that space right now? Like what are you looking for over the next 3 days, and what do you expect to hear?
Well, the one thing that we're hoping to get across to people is, hey, you don't need um, to use the larger retailers' logistics to get your product there, and a lot of them, if they want direct to store, if it's concentrated specifically for us, the GTA, we can help you, and the GMA, Greater Montreal area, we can help you get into those stores directly because. We've talked to a few customers, and they say the same thing, especially when there's smaller brands that are making a CPG product. Is I don't have enough product to directly go to the DC or cost too much. Like I can't spend $500 a skid to bring it to a distribution point because they're charging me to bring it all the way to the stores. I don't know how to distribute it beyond
Mhm.
my area besides using FedEx and all these places. Uh, Trying to get that across that there's choices out there. And the problem is it's hard to kind of even Google these choices, right? Because it's not like you can go on Google and be like, who is a great GTA distributor of CPG product direct to store? It's a
Well,
very niche kind of, and what you get is not the best brands that are able to do it. It usually comes through 3PLs or very good niche guys that are I feel like we are partnered with. They're able to accomplish that. So talking to the CPGs and saying, hey, there's choices, and if you are talking to someone and they're saying, hey, well, we're willing to put your product at a few stores, but we don't want to buy a whole skid off of you, we can pull that off, and that's part of the conversation that we want to have with them and build a direct to store for them.
Yeah, I agree with you. So, but I mean, like I spent a huge part of my career in the food industry, and then uh, for a long time, a big part of my responsibility was running national direct to store networks and stuff like that. And I agree with you. I think that that's a huge point. I remember at one point dealing with one of the biggest retailers in the world that happens to start with a C, and they wanted a bunch of product to go through their main warehouse versus our DSD. And like, we're sitting around with like the finance VPs and everything, and we're doing the math. And it was like, not only did they want more aggressive pricing because they were doing all of the work, but it was extremely clear that it was a profit center for them. Because when I did the math on the volume and the discounts they wanted for what they were trying to allege was their operating cost, it was insane. I'm like, how about you offer that we'll take product and we'll deliver it to their stores and we'll kind of do it a little bit cheaper, because it was an insane amount of profit that they were making from that activity, considering they also wanted the product. So you made a good point, because one, they usually play on that with like penalty kind of things, and they try to present that it's easier. But here's the reality: when you're dealing with like major supermarkets and these access points for them, right? Whether it's like some wholesaler or whatever, they don't really care about all of your SKUs. They want the best stuff. They want the stuff that's going to sell as quickly as possible. They also have limited space, limited capacity. So it's like, if your product has 4 or 5, 6, 7 variants or flavors, or whatever, you have different things, they might only want to have 1 or 2 of your main fast selling SKUs, because like those warehouses are meant to turn goods. They're not meant to hold stuff. You know what I mean? So then, to your point, smaller brands especially get killed because they only get to sell their best stuff. They still need to then find other channels for their, extended line, these other things that other consumers might like. And then once you get wrapped into, those high sales with like a big retailer, like a Walmart, like a Sobeys, like Costco, like could be Aldi in the US, could be whoever, right? It's really hard to peel back or to make changes from that, because they do drive significant volume and they know that. So having solutions where, if you're going to store, it becomes a little bit easier. You still have to battle for shelf space and potentially listing fees and all of these things, but at least at the end of the day, you can get all of your product to the store.
I also remember that when I say to store, I don't always mean just the regular retailers. It could be a mom and pop shop that doesn't have that ability, and they're willing to have your product, and they might be in,
Mm,
North York, Toronto, and it's some, smaller corner store that isn't part of a larger supply chain. You can still get your product to that place and get your first foot in the door to these smaller convenience stores as well. It doesn't have to be a giant retailer either. I know everybody just goes, I want to get into Walmart, I want to get into Costco, I want to get into Loblaws, I want to get into HEB in Texas. Like, these are my priorities. But to get your name brand out there, a lot of consumers, especially for these niche products for CPGs, they like to go to these little niche stores, and I like going
mhm,
to these niche stores too. And because uh, there's videos out there for all these CPGs. When you go into a larger store, most of the shelves, I would say 85%, if I remember correctly, are usually the big 3 or 4 brands that own the space
mhm,
in the CPG space. And very little do you have these niche little things, unless, like to your point, it's a very high SKU, or it's a very regional SKU that kind of is attracting people to that product. But then as soon as they're not selling right, and we were talking about a brand, we're not going to talk about it, but it was like a little square chocolates. You don't see them as often in stores because they're not as turning as a high SKU anymore, right? And so as soon as you hit that peak, and that's why Costco does it for 16 weeks, to do your SKU for 16 weeks. And unless it's a huge seller, they might not bring it back. So you only have that one opportunity. You got to make sure it hits. And then once you're in there, you got to make sure that SKU still attracts people. It's not like, hey,
mhm.
I just have it at Costco. We're good. We're fine. You still got to make that SKU happen and rotate for them in order to get that good piece back. And then part of that challenge, like you were talking about, the C brand retailer, uh, was the cost of it. There's a lot of brands in Canada too, and I know in the US they're doing private fleets. They're like, oh, they're going to their vendors. Let me buy the product off you, and I'll do my own
Mm,
transportation. but they're not doing it to the same level of efficiency. They're not adhering to the dock times. They're not doing all these different things. They expect their product to be ready when they're ready, and it throws off a lot of different factors. I know there's been a few brands in Canada that have been people been pushing back on. They're like, hey, we don't want you to pick up the product. We want to deliver it because they do high margin in the transportation, and it is a good strategy for you to be like,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah,
I'll
for
give you the
sure.
product for a dollar when it really need to be $1.50, but you kick it into the transportation to make it seem like it's the
Hmm.
right area, and that's how a lot of retailers will do it. And that's how Walmart and other brands like Target and all
Well,
these, they add fines and they help reduce their costs, overall costs, because it's a profit center for them, like you mentioned. And it's their strategy. You might not agree with it, but it's how they get the better prices because they adhere to a certain level of expectations.
well, for sure. And the other thing that a lot of people don't know, there's, listing fees, for example, is like, let's call it like traditional grocers, especially, will have like listing fees. Like imagine paying multiple six figures just to have a product on the shelf. No sales or nothing, just to get some real estate, kind of like you're buying a house and you're putting up, you know, $250,000, $500,000, whatever it is, just to get it on the shelf. So that's a barrier to entry. On the flip side of that, you do get people, some big and some smaller, like grocers and stuff like that, that don't have listing fees. But then to your point, that money or that profitability opportunity comes from other places, because they're not going to compete in a market where they know that someone's getting 500 grand up front every time they want to, switch SKU and get 4 feet of space and take nothing for it. So they find other ways to do it, whether it's on baseline pricing, whether it's on whatever, but they most certainly don't give it up. So very interesting. The other thing I'm really curious about is that, and I'm curious on your thoughts on this. I'm really interested in the conversation I'm going to try to have over the next 3 days. How many people are using like wholesale distributors, right? Because one of the nastiest things in CPG is having to try to get your product out there by going into these guys that are selling your product, but then they do it on this like percent of invoice kind of commission structure, which I think is probably just the grossest thing you can do. Um, because their costs don't change at certain intervals, and they really benefit from like the 3/4, that half full pallet versus 3/4 versus full, and them making more money for no more work. And I'm not a fan of that. So I'm curious to see how many of these brands have been like roped into using, the wholesale distributor model to try to access,
Yeah,
the market.
that's a good point because without those wholesalers, you think that's your only way in because they provide your sales. They say, hey, I can get you through the door and talk to the bigger
Hmm.
brands. I can get you through the door to do these things. I can help with your logistics. I have warehouse space. What they don't realize, like you said, is they take a percentage off that. And if they have a competing brand, they're going to make sure that you don't get in it. Like, sorry, we already have these papaya based purees on our shelf. We don't want you to compete it, and they're going to make sure that you can't enter, especially if you're a global brand, right? It makes it a lot harder. I know a few years ago when I was where was I? I think I was in Fruit Logistica out in Berlin. It was 3 years ago, and we were talking to a lemon grower. Like, oh, we really know you guys in Canada need more lemons. But the problem is there's a distributor that has cornered the market, and they're the only lemon. And we were told that the only way we can get lemons into Canada is through this distributor because that's the only way you can get enough volume to make it work. And that kind of ruins the choice and the price availability within our marketplace, right? So that's another thing I'd like to communicate when I'm walking the floor this week is like there is choice, and there's might be different ways that you have to do different things. And the hardest part is the inventory part, right? Like when if you're not the importer of record and you don't own that inventory and you have to manage it for them, it becomes sticky on the pricing of it, who has ownership and how to get paid for it. But there's conversations to be had and ways around that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it'll be interesting to see too, what people are looking at doing if even though you might not be having as much of a tariff impact, a lot of people are. Food is a little different. It's got to be a little closer usually to home a lot of the time. Um, Different, not always true depending on what it is, but it'll be interesting to see if more people are focused on trying to create that right balance, right? Like a good revenue model, a good cost model and stuff like that, because you food especially is wicked tough, right? And it's already kind of been creeping up in terms of price with inflation and everything like that. So yeah, I'm very curious to see like the feedback and what people are thinking and what they're doing, right now, especially because those pressures that are happening in other parts of the market, everything comes back. Like at the end of the day, any household only has X amount of dollars to spend, and they're going to be looking for relief from all kinds of different ways, right?
And on that note, because we're approaching we're at our time, John.
We are.
I know I'm gonna say your final thoughts for you. Come check us out at CL. Come say hello. Come by the Monarch Connect booth. We have a photo op set up so you guys can take some pictures. You'll have the 3 pictures printed out. It'll be really cool. Kat did a great job putting that out there for us. She did all the marketing. We have a full background. You'll see myself. You'll see John walking around. You'll see Kat walking around. It should be a great time. Um, and if you aren't there, come next year. It's a great show for sure.
Yeah, very cool. And I will leave it at that because it's going to be super good. I definitely hope to bump into a bunch of people over the next few days.
Bye, everybody.
Still shows live.
I know. Hit the button.